The main character finds himself in the middle of a battle. His thoughts drift to a time when the hardships made him want to give up on everything. But now he's discovered a way to set things right, and we see him surrounded by allies who stand with him. He declares that if anyone accuses him of being in the wrong, he'll simply respond that he did what he had to do in order to survive. The story then transitions to a school setting, where a boy is shown sitting alone. He admits that he's planning to end his life soon, but before that, he wants to write about his miserable school experiences. A group of students is seen singing him a birthday song while simultaneously stomping on him. They brutally assault him, ᴄᴏᴘᴘыឫ, and force him to eat a filthy cake off the floor. They continue to humiliate him and even take a photo during the abuse. Doan documents all of this in his notebook. The scene shifts again to show more of that same day, with the bully Doan and his gang continuing to torment Doan. They mockingly demand he bring another cake the next day to celebrate his next birthday early. When the class bell rings, Doan and his crew rush off to class to avoid punishment from the teacher. Meanwhile, Doan slowly crawls his way back up and slowly makes his way back to the class, where he is scolded by his teacher for being late. We see students around Doan make fun of his situation as they speculate correctly about him getting bullied again. One student also says that Doan should end his life instead of bearing with this and have a good laugh about it. Doan writes it all down and says that he would win first place if writing a final will were a competition. He then imagines how doing this would ruin Doan's life forever. He says that even though he won't be able to see it with his own eyes, the thought of ruining Doan's life still brings him some twisted sense of happiness. He wonders how his family would react to him taking his own life. He imagines his brother, a study addict, still studying with flashcards at his funeral, his sister glued to her phone, and his parents not caring much because he's never really been good at anything. However, he decides that he should still inform his family and say his final goodbye. During family dinner, Doan asks his sister where their mom is. She replies that she isn't home yet. However, Doan goes forward with his decision to say his final goodbye. He tells his dad that he's sorry for being a nuisance to them, but his dad doesn't want to hear it and tells him to move out of the way because he's blocking the TV. Doan is shocked but focuses on the TV. On the screen, a news report is airing about a high school student who took the lives of his bullies. Doan is immediately drawn to the news as it reveals that the student was severely bullied at school. We then see the student being interviewed by the media, where he expresses pride in what he did to his bullies. He names them all and calls them monsters who humiliated him and mocked his family. The student says that he doesn't care at all about what people think and that he did it because he had to survive. He goes on to encourage fellow victims to step up and do the same. Doan's father thinks the student is crazy for doing such a thing and insists that, despite being bullied, he doesn't have the right to end anyone's life. However, Doan is fully consumed by the student's words and is inspired by them. Later, in his bedroom, Doan tells himself that he shouldn't end his life. He did nothing wrong. Instead, he should end Doan and his friends for bullying him so much. He takes out a screwdriver and starts stabbing his pillow to practice what he wants to do to Doan. The next day at school, Doan brings the screwdriver with him. However, he can't summon the courage to go through with it. He tells himself that, despite practicing, he lacks what it takes to follow through. He says that he won't do it unless Doan bullies him again, and just as if on cue, Doan approaches and grabs him by the back of the neck. He asks Doan if he brought the cake with him. Doan grabs hold of his screwdriver and thinks about going through with his plan. Doan continues to push his buttons, asking whether Doan brought the cake to celebrate his birthday, growing angrier as Doan doesn't respond. Finally, Doan attempts to go for it, but when he looks at Doan, his body freezes, and fear takes over. Doan acknowledges that he has a conditional fear of Doan and is terrified whenever he sees Doan's face. He's so scared that, instead of attacking with the screwdriver, he desperately tries to hide it as Doan punches him in the classroom. Doan then says that the party isn't over for Doan and demands that he meet him after school. After school, Doan heads to the backyard with Doan and his friends. Doan says that they've bought tons of stuff to celebrate Doan's birthday, including liquor. Doan tells Doan that he can't drink it. Doan then tells him that he must consume it, or it will be Doan's last day. They make a disgusting cocktail with liquor, dirty socks, dirt, spit, and other unsavory ingredients, forcing Dowon to drink it. Dowon refuses and is beaten up badly for it. Left with no choice, Dowon gulps it down. However, he can't hold it in and vomits. They mock him, and Doyen tells him he must drink it all before they stop. They continue to make the vile cocktail and force him to drink, but Dowon keeps vomiting. At one point, they run out of liquor, so Doyen orders his lackeys to go buy more, determined not to let Dowon go until he finishes the drink. As they leave, Doyen tries to pour alcohol onto Dowon's face. Unable to take it anymore, and on the verge of breaking, Dowon pushes Doyen away, breaking the bottle of alcohol, and makes a run for it. He doesn't know why he's running, but he keeps going. However, Doyen catches up and beats him up again, landing several punches to his face. He grabs Dowon by the hair and drags him back. As he's being dragged, Dowon finally decides to do something. Since he can't attack Doyen because he's afraid of his face, he realizes he can act when Doyen's back is turned. At the right moment, Dowon pushes Doyen away. Doyen, furious, prepares to retaliate, but before he can, a car runs over Doyen. As everyone gathers around Doyen and tries to make sense of what just happened, Dowon seizes the opportunity and runs for his life, terrified of getting caught. Later, we see Doyen, crumpled up on his bed, terrified about what he has supposedly done. He can't process the fact that his push might have ended Lee Doyen's life. He is tense and scared, convinced that this is the end of his normal life. The next day, we see a very nervous Dowon heading to school. He's terrified about what the reaction will be if people find out what happened between him and Doyen, whether they will attack him or not. As he enters the classroom, he fears that the police might be waiting behind the door to arrest him for his crime. But to his surprise, it's business as usual. Nothing seems to have changed, except for the fact that the seat once occupied by Lee Doyen is now empty. Soon after, the teacher walks in and announces to everyone that Doyen had an accident. The teacher says that Doyen is in a comatose state and that the accident happened because Doyen was walking carelessly on the road, not paying attention to ongoing traffic. The teacher adds that anyone who wants to visit Doyen can do so at the hospital. The class is buzzing with conversation, while Dowon is conflicted and paranoid. He can't believe he has seemingly gotten away with what he did. His moral conscience tells him he should turn himself in to the police for attempting to end Doyen's life, but he wants to live a few more days normally before doing so. The school day goes by as usual, classes, lunch, and reading novels during the breaks, just like the old days in middle school, before Doyen's constant bullying and berating of him and his family. Dowon tears up, thinking about how he wasn't allowed to live a normal high school life because of Doyen. A few of his classmates approach him and jokingly accuse him of being the one who pushed Doyen into the truck's path. They say so because they saw Dowon leaving with Doyen's group that day, but one of them refutes the theory, simply stating that someone as cowardly as Dowon could never do something like that. Dowon feels somewhat relieved, thinking that his cowardice may have saved him from a solid accusation. He is still haunted by what he did, but seeing how the kids who would usually bully him are now ignoring him, and how most of the other bullied kids are living normal lives, makes him think that maybe pushing Doyen wasn't such a bad thing after all. However, things take a turn when a police car arrives on the school grounds. Everyone is scared, or at least pretending to be scared in a comedic way, as they know the police must be there to arrest someone for what happened with Doyen. Dowon's worst fears come true when someone says that the principal has called him to the school office. At the office, he is immediately put in handcuffs as the police inform him that he is under arrest for attempting to end Lee Doyen's life. The teachers are shocked and ask why this is happening, as the police had previously stated that Doyen's accident was caused by jaywalking. The police explained that they had reviewed the truck's black box and local CCTV footage, which revealed that Dowon was the one who pushed Doyen into harm's way. The teachers are devastated and ask Dowon why he did it. Why couldn't he just be a normal kid? Dowon has no answers, as he has torn himself apart inside. He believes that, after everything, there must be a God, and he must pay for what he did. Someone like him can never be happy. We then learn that Dowon was put on 2 years of probation instead of being sent to a juvenile detention center. Him being bullied, having written a note indicating that he was going to end his life, and the fact that he was under the influence of alcohol all contributed to him getting off rather easily. However, he is now ostracized and can't live a normal life. His relationship with his family is strained, and he feels guilty for what he has done. He goes to school and finds out that he has been expelled for his actions. As he walks out, he overhears his classmates discussing how what he did was wrong. They say that despite Doyen bullying him, Doan had no right to finish off Doyen for it. Some even claim that Doyen was justified in bullying him. This angers Doan, as he can't fathom how people who have never experienced the kind of bullying he endured can judge him so nonchalantly. After that, he returns to the only place he feels he can go, home. However, upon arriving at his house, Doan is immediately told to leave by his father. Heartbroken, Doan leaves the house, tears streaming down his face. Drenched by the rain, he walks through the empty night streets and runs into Doyen's former friends, the ones who used to bully him alongside Doyen. The bullies are furious and want to take revenge on Doan for what he did to Doyen. They viciously beat Doan, telling him how wrong he was and how, despite Doyen being a lowlife, he had no right to do what he did. One of them climbs on top of Doan and rains down a barrage of punches, leaving him a bloody mess. He demands that Doan apologize for what he did. Beaten and broken, Doan can't believe he's being told to apologize after all the bullying he endured. He can't believe that, suddenly, he's the bad guy for pushing Doyen once when Doyen has repeatedly pushed him off a metaphorical cliff, ruining his life. Overcome with anger, Doan yells back, saying he won't apologize because they had bullied him first. The bully is enraged and continues to beat Doan, asking how dare he speak in such a rebellious manner. Unable to take it any longer, Doan snaps. In a burst of fury, he picks up a brick lying nearby and uses it to beat the bully viciously, leaving him in a pool of his own blood. Doan makes a decision: he won't regret what he did again. He will continue to do whatever it takes to survive, even if it means ending others. However, his actions make no difference in the way the other bullies perceive him. Instead of being scared, they're now furious with him for standing up and beating one of their own. They tell Doan that just because they used umbrellas to beat him up before doesn't mean they won't use other weapons. They begin to attack him again. The group surrounds Doan and unleashes a brutal beating on him. They outnumber him significantly and have a wider selection of weapons. Doan remains defiant, using the brick in his hand to fight back. He manages to strike one of the bullies, but his small victory is quickly crushed as the others escalate their attacks. The beating intensifies, and eventually, Doan is knocked to the ground, where the assault continues. The bullies try to get Doan to give up, but he's still angry and refuses to concede. As the relentless beating continues, a random homeless-looking man approaches the scene. He tells the bullies not to make a scene at his home. The bullies mock him for calling the construction site his home and tell him to leave without interfering. The man calmly replies that it is indeed his home, and he came back to eat. He then adds that the brick in Doan's hand was his pillow, but now it's covered in blood. The bullies are livid at the homeless man's nonchalant behavior, so they threaten him to leave. The man quickly agrees, saying he will leave for one of his other homes. The bullies mock him for leaving so cowardly, and just as they refocus on Doan, the homeless man returns. He throws his cup of instant ramen at one of the bullies as a distraction, and then quickly gets into rhythm, delivering a solid jumping kick to the bully's head. The fight intensifies as the bullies try to attack him, but it's clear they're no match for the random guy who came out of nowhere. He kicks one bully in the legs and delivers a solid right-handed punch to another. Next, he follows up with a knee to the midsection of one of them. Another bully approaches, telling the man to leave his friend, but the homeless man kicks the bully he was holding and sends him flying onto his friend. He then attacks that bully, using his fingers to jab into the bully's eyes. One more bully, holding a stick, tries to hit the man for looking down on them. The man pulls out a wrapped object and asks if the bully still wants to continue. The bully, visibly frightened, believes the object is a knife. He mocks the man, saying he's scared despite their numbers and weapon advantage. Then, it's revealed that the weapon was not a knife, but rather chopsticks wrapped in paper. This shocks the bully, but he doesn't have time to process it as the homeless man delivers a hard kick to his jaw. Doan watches, amazed at how the man has so easily taken down Doyen's crew. He feels a strange sense of satisfaction. The bullies, realizing they're outmatched, run away. The homeless man mocks them for abandoning their friend, and Dwan, now standing in awe, thanks him for saving his life. The man, clearly annoyed, responds that he doesn't care about Dwan's gratitude. Dwan asks if the man can teach him how to fight, but the man declines, more concerned about finding something to eat. Dwan offers to buy him ramen, and they head to the shop where Dwan buys the man a meal. While eating, Dwan tells the man his story. The man praises Dwan for standing up for himself and says people like Doyen need to be handled in such a manner. Dwan asks again if the man will teach him to fight. The man answers, no. Dwan, feeling devastated, promises to buy him more food in the future, but the man's stance doesn't change. The homeless man tells Dwan that he's not made for fighting and that he can't survive in street life. He insists that Dwan should go back home, but Dwan is still determined. He wants to learn how to take proper revenge on his bullies. So, Dwan begins stalking the homeless man, following his every move. He starts by mimicking the man's routine of wearing clothes scavenged from trash to survive on the streets. He also tries adopting the man's eating habits, using cat food as a side dish with rice. However, Dwan is caught stealing cat food and chased off. Later, he finds the man sleeping in a children's playground, where all the kids are too afraid to approach him. Dwan tries the same, but instead of scaring the kids, they start playing on top of him. Dwan begins to lose hope, but then he sees the man fighting a group of thugs on the street and regains his confidence. Despite his odd appearance, the man is a skilled fighter. The man, clearly annoyed by Dwan's obvious stalking, calls him out. "Are you going to keep following me to learn how to fight?" he asks. Dwan, determined, answers, yes. To Dwan's surprise, the homeless man agrees to teach him, but on one condition. He points to one of Doyen's former bullies nearby and tells Dwan to beat him up. Dwan hesitates. The man tells him that what he did with the brick earlier wasn't fighting, it was just surviving. If Dwan truly wants revenge, he has to turn the tables on the bullies. Dwan steels himself, deciding to take action. He tells himself that he was once the prey, but now he is the predator. A flashback shows Dwan and the bully Yonghyun in school. Yonghyun had apologized for bullying Dwan, making him strip in front of girls, throwing water on him, etc. Dwan had been shocked, but his classmates urged him to accept the apology, as it seemed sincere. Yonghyun offers his hand, but when Dwan takes it, Yonghyun crushes his hand with crushing force. As a baseball athlete, Yonghyun's grip strength is 84 kilos, and Dwan screams in agony. Yonghyun mocks him, saying he feels like a new man after apologizing and promises to continue this apology every day. Back to the present, Dwan's anger boils as he remembers this incident. He controls his breath and launches himself at the unsuspecting Yonghyun, who is on a call. Dwan lands a stomp kick variation, sending Yonghyun flying. The homeless man is impressed, and Dwan is ecstatic, thrilled at how easily he took down his enemy. But before he can celebrate, Yonghyun punches him hard, sending him flying back. He can't believe Dwan was the one who decided to sneak attack him. Yonghyun retaliates viciously, attacking Dwan while accusing him of not getting enough of a beating on the construction site. The homeless man, disappointed, thought Dwan had something more in him, but now it seems like nothing. Yonghyun mocks Dwan, saying he never went all out on him before, but now he will attack with full force. Dwan, though battered, refuses to back down. He swings a bag full of trash at Yonghyun's face. Yonghyun blocks it, but Dwan uses the opportunity to tackle him. However, Yonghyun blocks the tackle and repeatedly attacks Dwan. He pushes Dwan against a wall and tries to land a hit, but Dwan tries to poke his eyes. The homeless man smiles slightly as he watches Dwan's actions. It seems Dwan is starting to mimic his style from the construction site. Yonghyun remarks that Dwan isn't skilled at using that kind of fighting style, and in the next moment, he crushes Dwan's finger for trying to jab at his eyes. He questions Dwan why he's doing this, why he feels the need to attack them, and whether he feels betrayed. Internally, Dwan admits he does feel betrayed, because they're the ones responsible for his expulsion. He thinks to himself that if he had the chance, he wouldn't hesitate to take down every single one of the bullies. His mind flashes back to the advice from the homeless man, who told him that even someone like Yonghyun could be beaten, because in a street fight, there are no rules or tactics. Dwon reminds himself that Yonghyun played a part in ruining his life, so there's no reason to hold anything back. As Yonghyun moves in to strike again, he pauses. Something in Dwon's fierce glare unsettles him. The intensity in Dwon's eyes gets under Yonghyun's skin. Fueled by the homeless man's words, Dwon pulls out a paper-wrapped, knife-like object and presses it against Yonghyun. Yonghyun is caught off guard. He mocks Dwon, saying someone like him wouldn't have the guts to show up with a knife, but as he touches it, a chill runs down his spine. The texture makes him nervous. Dwon challenges him to grip it with the same strength he once used to squeeze his hands, then suddenly drives a kick into Yonghyun's stomach. The homeless man, observing, realizes Dwon might be even more unhinged than he initially thought. He wonders if Dwon, like himself, is just bluffing with a fake weapon, but Yonghyun's frightened reaction suggests otherwise. Meanwhile, Yonghyun is panicking, questioning what could have pushed Dwon to the edge, what made him lose it to the point of pulling a knife. He tries to flee but heads the wrong way, with Dwon in pursuit. As Dwon closes in, knife in hand, the question hangs heavy: will he actually go through with it and end Yonghyun? Jonghyun, who is backing off, gets caught by Yim Dae-jun with a strike to the top of his head with the under part of the dagger. Dae-jun can't be stopped. He is angry and he keeps throwing kicks and punches with no stop. Dae-jun throws a wild cross to Yonghyun's upper body before creating distance with several front push kicks. Yonghyun, furious, can't believe he's being beaten by someone like Yim Dae-jun. However, he feels helpless due to the knife that Dae-jun is wielding. Dae-jun follows up with another front push kick, but this time, Yonghyun attempts to retreat. Clutching his ribs, he pleads with Dae-jun to stop attacking, explaining that the recent kick hit his injured area and may have caused his ribs to break. He admits his mistakes and asks Dae-jun to calm down. This infuriates Yim Dae-jun to no end as he kicks Yonghyun in the supposedly broken ribs again, tauntingly asking if Yonghyun wants him to stop. Dae-jun tells him that Yonghyun has no idea what kind of life he has endured because of Yonghyun and his bully friends. Dae-jun continues to unload strikes with the concealed knife. As Dae-jun strikes Yonghyun over and over again, Yonghyun apologizes, saying that it was all his fault. Dae-jun replies that no one ever listened to him. He was beaten unconscious with punches and kicks and forced to do very humiliating things. Yet, when he regained consciousness, it was he who had to apologize to Yonghyun and his friends, telling them it was his fault, despite Dae-jun being the victim. Someone like Yonghyun has no idea what Dae-jun had to endure every day, every night, wanting to end his life. He has no right to apologize or ask Dae-jun to stop. The homeless man, who is observing the fight, reflects on how impressive it is that Dae-jun is beating up his bully. However, as Dae-jun reminisces about his painful memories, he slowly starts to break down and stops attacking Yonghyun, dropping his guard. However, Yonghyun had been waiting for this exact opportunity. He seizes the moment, grabbing Dae-jun's arm and locking him in a jiu-jitsu hold to disarm him. He takes control of the knife. Now that Yonghyun has the knife, he confronts Dae-jun, saying that he has no reason to hold back or allow himself to be hit by Yim Dae-jun anymore, since the knife is now in his hands. Yonghyun claims that he always knew a coward like Yim Dae-jun could never use a knife or stab him. But unlike Dae-jun, he's not a coward, and he can very much stab him with it. Yonghyun then plunges the knife into Dae-jun's leg. However, the knife doesn't penetrate Yim Dae-jun's skin or flesh. Yonghyun then unwraps the knife from its paper covering, only to discover it's just a steel ruler. The homeless man, watching the scene unfold, is impressed by Dae-jun's cleverness, as he successfully deceived Yonghyun into thinking it was a real knife. Yonghyun can't believe he was tricked by a ruler. Dae-jun taunts Yonghyun, saying that even though Yonghyun called him a coward, it was actually Yonghyun who got scared by a ruler. Enraged, Yonghyun launches a ground-and-pound assault on Yim Dae-jun. He relentlessly throws punches to Dae-jun's face from a top position, blooding him up with no intention of stopping. Furious, Yonghyun shouts, demanding to know how someone like Yim Dae-jun could try to play a trick on him. After all, he's the psycho of the baseball team. However, just then, the homeless man walks up behind Yong-hyun, pours his drink over his head, and tells him that he doesn't think Yong-hyun is a psycho at all, that he has a long way to go before he could even be one. This infuriates Yong-hyun, as the homeless man has interfered in his fight and is now insulting him. He stands up from Dae-jun and approaches the homeless man with dangerous intent. However, to the homeless man, this is just a joke. He delivers a sidekick to Yong-hyun's chin, knocking him out cold. The homeless man then helps Dae-jun recover, asking him if he has any idea what would have happened if he hadn't intervened. He tells Dae-jun that he did well and almost got the better of his bully. However, he adds that he can't teach him how to fight, as that was part of their agreement. This causes Dae-jun to break down. He feels lost, angry at himself for losing control of the situation and dropping his guard. He thinks nothing has changed for him since he was a victim of bullying. He still feels like a loser. He violently slams his fists down on the road in anger. The homeless man notices this and asks Dae-jun if he's really that desperate and serious about learning to fight and getting stronger. He offers Dae-jun a second chance, saying that if he passes, the homeless man will teach him how to fight. That said, the upcoming mission for Dae-jun will be much harder than the first one he faced. The homeless man then asks Dae-jun to follow him. After a while, they arrive in a new area. Dae-jun tells the homeless man that they've been walking for ages, and the homeless man hasn't told him where they're going. Dae-jun has no idea what's going on in this neighborhood, as he's new here. The homeless man asks if Dae-jun thinks the bullies at his school are the worst humanity can offer, to which Dae-jun replies that they indeed are. The homeless man smirks and says that they're not even close to being the worst. In fact, there are much worse people than them. People so bad that even the schools couldn't control them, so they had to be removed from the normal school system. He explains that people like that gather in this area and live a very different and violent life, one that Dae-jun can hardly imagine. Dae-jun, terrified, asks why the homeless man would bring him to such a dangerous place. The homeless man replies that Dae-jun has already been expelled from his school and kicked out of his house. To survive on the streets and toughen up, he needs to learn to live in this neighborhood. The homeless man kicks Dae-jun into a dark room and tells him to survive if he wants the man to teach him how to fight and live the street life. Dae-jun, shocked and overwhelmed, looks up to find intimidating figures surrounding him. Now, he must figure out how to survive in such a harsh environment, with dangerous people closing in and looking to get him. Later, we see Dae-jun on his knees, being interrogated by the group of people who live in that house. The red-haired man asks Dae-jun if he needs to live here and survive in order to learn how to fight. Dae-jun confirms that this is the case. The red-haired man then asks who sent him here and dumped him so unceremoniously. Dae-jun replies that it was the homeless man, ᴄᴏᴘыឫ. The group is clearly disappointed by what ᴄᴏᴘыឫ has done. The red-haired man asks Dae-jun if he knows how to fight, to which Dae-jun answers that he can't fight. They can tell from his appearance that he has no fighting skills, so they ask if there's anything he's good at. Dae-jun responds that he isn't good at anything. The girl in the group then asks if he has ever worked anywhere, and Dae-jun says that he hasn't and doesn't know how to work. Frustrated, the red-haired man says that Dae-jun is basically useless to them as an asset. He can't understand why ᴄᴏᴘыឫ would choose to bring someone so useless into their group. However, since ᴄᴏᴘыឫ sent him, they can't just kick him out of the house. Another person in the group says that it's too late to worry about what to do with Dae-jun now. They decide to let him sleep there for the night. The red-haired man grabs Dae-jun's hand and takes him to a room. He opens a door and tells Dae-jun to sleep there. Dae-jun is left stunned as he looks at the room, which is a laundry room already half filled with a washing machine. The red-haired man tells him that there's no reason to feel overwhelmed or grateful just yet, because they aren't going to let him live for free. He says that if Dae-jun has no real abilities to contribute to the group, he can at least put his body to work. Dae-jun should look forward to the upcoming day. The next morning, we see Dae-jun doing all the housework by himself. He is shown washing the bathroom and toilet, and carrying plants in the garden to help the girl. It's grueling work, but he can't oppose it because, at least for now, he gets to live there and eat, which is much better than going back to school or living on the streets. Later, we see the group enjoying a hearty lunch together, while Dae-jun is alone in the small laundry room, eating much less and cheaper food. We also learn that Dae-jun has started to explore the surrounding neighborhood, as he frequently has to go out to buy groceries and run errands. Dae-jun reflects that this place is much tougher and harsher than anything he has ever known. It's a crime-ridden city where it seems like every gangster lives. One day, while walking home with groceries, Dae-jun accidentally makes eye contact with one of the gangsters, which angers him. The gangster approaches Dae-jun and accuses him of staring at his girlfriend's leg. Dae-jun, thinking to himself that he must be some kind of bully magnet because this always happens to him, is threatened by the gangster. The gangster says that he'll let Dae-jun go if he bows down and apologizes, but if not, he'll teach him a lesson. Dae-jun stays calm, keeping quiet and holding back his anger. He realizes that the gangster is just showing off to his girlfriend, which frustrates him, but he remains silent. However, the gangster, seeing Dae-jun's lack of reaction, becomes even more enraged and tries to attack him. Dae-jun thinks to himself that, normally, he would just let it slide, but this is the kind of environment ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣլ wanted him to survive in, so he won't hold back. Channeling his anger, Dae-jun adopts a fighting stance and gets ready to throw a punch. The gangster, surprised, takes a few steps back, but that's because Cha Dae-yob, the red-haired man, is standing behind Dae-jun. Cha Dae-yob asks the gangster why he's messing with his houseboy and pushes him aside with his shoulder. He then pulls Dae-jun away, telling him not to waste time outside if he's done with his errands. Instead, he should come back and start cleaning the veranda. The gangster, still furious, is warned by his friends, who remind him that Cha Dae-yob is a dangerous man with some very gnarly rumors surrounding him. Cha Dae-yob has Kim with him, as they are part of ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣլ's crew and shouldn't be messed with. However, the gangster, still furious and unwilling to back down in front of his friends, rushes forward to sneak attack Cha Dae-yob with a knife. But Dae-yob sidesteps the attack, using the gangster's own momentum to slam him hard onto the road with a judo throw. Cha Dae-yob then asks if anyone else wants to fight, and, seeing his strength, all the goons quickly flee. Dae-jun stands there in awe, realizing that Dae-yob is just as strong as ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl. He wonders if all of ᴄᴏᴘыйл's friends are as strong as this. Meanwhile, the humiliated gangster, having recovered from Dae-yob's move, bangs his head against a wall in anger while his friends try to stop him. He is furious beyond belief and swears to take down everyone in ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's group, regardless of their connection to the infamous ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl. At that moment, an unknown shady figure approaches the gangster and his friends. He asks if they're serious about finishing off ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's crew. The shady man offers to help them in their quest for revenge if they really want to go through with it. Later, the scene shifts, and we see ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's group sleeping together in a room, while Dae-jun sleeps in his laundry room. Then, the gangster who seeks revenge shows up at their doorstep, carrying a cylinder filled with harmful gas. He opens the cylinder and releases the gas through a pipe into the room, slowly suffocating the members of ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's crew. Dae-jun wakes up, sensing something strange in the air. He isn't affected as much since he's in a different room. Realizing what's happening, he rushes out and finds the room filled with gas, everyone choking. Without hesitation, Dae-jun dashes forward and forces the door open to release the air. However, the door slams into the gangster, and Dae-jun recognizes him. The gangster quickly makes a run for it, escaping into the night. Dae-jun, frustrated, thinks to himself that these people don't really think much of him. They make fun of him for being useless, and while that may be true, he still wants to do something for them. Determined, Dae-jun takes off after the gangster, who believes he's created enough distance and stops to catch his breath. The gangster wonders why Dae-jun wasn't affected by the gas, speculating that he must sleep in a different room than ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's crew. At that moment, Dae-jun arrives on the scene, his resolve firm. Ready to confront the scum in front of him, he tells the gangster to stop, gearing up for the fight. We then see a flashback to a few days before the gas attack on ᴄᴏᴘыᔨဣl's crew. Dae-jun is standing on the rooftop with Cha Dae-yob. Cha Dae-yob asks Dae-jun why he keeps pestering him. Dae-jun replies that he wants to learn how to fight from him. He's impressed by how Dae-yob took out the gangster with a single blow and wants to be just as effective. Cha Dae-yeob wonders what he should do with this guy. He wishes Cho Hang-il would just come and take Dae-jun away from him. Although Dae-jun wants to learn how to fight, his lack of talent and physicality makes it seem impossible. However, Dae-yeob hands Dae-jun a skipping rope. Dae-jun is confused, but Dae-yeob informs him that weaklings like him need to train a lot to get better at fighting. Dae-jun asks how many repetitions he should do, and Dae-yeob dismissively tells him to do as many as he wants. Dae-jun, still confused, asks how many repetitions Dae-yeob is capable of doing. Dae-yeob casually replies that he could easily do 100,000 repetitions. Back when he was training intensely, he could manage that much with relative ease. This leaves Dae-jun baffled, as 100,000 repetitions of jump ropes is an enormous amount. The next day, we see a yawning Cha Dae-yeob walking up to the rooftop, wondering what Dae-jun has been up to, since he hasn't seen him since the night before. Dae-jun didn't even do the dishes that day. Dae-yeob then realizes that he had told Dae-jun to do jump ropes and wonders if Dae-jun is really attempting 100,000 repetitions. After all, Dae-yeob was only bluffing when he said he could do that many with ease. But then, Dae-yeob wonders if Dae-jun is really that stupid, or is he? He is shocked when he sees an exhausted Dae-jun skipping rope, looking more like a zombie on autopilot than a human being. Dae-yeob wonders if Dae-jun stayed up all night doing this and asks him why he's doing something so pointless, as it seems like an impossible task. Barely able to speak due to his exhaustion, Dae-jun huffs, telling Dae-yeob that he still has 47,000 repetitions to go. He's doing this because he wants to be as strong as Dae-yeob. Dae-yeob is surprised, but he doesn't show it. He just shrugs it off. Dae-yeob then asks Dae-jun if he really thinks doing 100,000 repetitions of jump ropes will make him as strong as him, suggesting that Dae-jun should quit and go back to doing the dishes. He wonders to himself why Dae-jun is trying so hard to fight. The scene then cuts back to the present, where we see Dae-jun fighting the gangster who wanted revenge on Cho Hang-il's crew. Dae-jun attempts to hit the gangster with a right hook, but the gangster blocks it with his forearm and lands a brutal uppercut to Dae-jun's chin, knocking him down. Despite this, Dae-jun refuses to stay down. He pushes himself back up and tries to stop the gangster from escaping. The gangster is shocked by how Dae-jun keeps getting back up, no matter how many times he's knocked down. He tries to make a run for it, but Dae-jun pursues him, almost catching up. However, the gangster anticipates Dae-jun's move and strikes him with a hard elbow, sending him crashing to the ground once again. The gangster, desperate to escape, mutters to himself that he can't waste any more time here. He needs to leave town as soon as possible, especially since he failed in his attempt to get revenge on Cho Hang-il's crew. This failure means the man who helped him, someone even more dangerous, will be angry with him. As he tries to escape down the stairs, Dae-jun quickly recovers, grabs his leg, and trips him, sending the gangster tumbling down the stairs and injuring him. Now in control, Dae-jun stands over the gangster and demands to know what he meant when he said he's a target of the Cho gang. But just as he begins to question him, the tables turn. The gangster, desperate to survive, pulls out a knife and lunges at Dae-jun. Frozen in fear, Dae-jun thinks back to the time when he pointed a fake knife at Yong-hyun. Now, faced with a real blade and a deranged opponent, Dae-jun finally feels the weight of what it's like to have a knife pointed at him. The gangster, driven by fear of the Cho gang, is willing to do anything to escape. The gangster swings the knife, landing a cut on Dae-jun. Though Dae-jun is able to dodge some of the attacks, he's quickly backed against a wall and trips, falling to the ground. The gangster then moves in to finish him off, aiming to stab him with the knife. Thinking quickly, Dae-jun grabs a nearby concrete tile and uses it to block the knife, but it shatters easily, leaving him defenseless. With nothing left to protect him, Dae-jun is on the brink of being stabbed by the psycho gangster. Meanwhile, back at the house, the Cho Hang-il crew has woken up, struggling to catch their breath and wondering what caused the dizziness they felt. They suspect the gangsters from earlier must have been behind the gas attack. The crew wonders who saved them from suffocating and how it was done. Cha Dae-yeob, interrupting their conversation, casually informs them that it was Yim Dae-jun who saved them. The others are surprised, asking why Dae-jun would risk his life to help them. They worry that Dae-jun will be in danger if he keeps going after the gangsters. But Cha Dae-yob confidently reassures them, saying, Dae-jun will survive. We flash back to the moment when Dae-jun saved the ᴄᴏᴘᴘыឫ crew. Dae-yob was only half awake when Dae-jun approached him, still catching his breath from dragging everyone out of the gas-filled room. Dae-jun tells him that the group now owes him one because he nearly suffocated himself in the process. He saved their lives, and in return, Dae-yob should teach him how to fight. Dae-yob, barely conscious, mumbles incoherently, leaving Dae-jun wondering if he's even awake enough to understand him. But Dae-jun keeps going, asking Dae-yob to divide the house chores more fairly, offering to take a part-time job to support the group, and requesting to be included in their meat-eating parties. Dae-yob refuses, and Dae-jun realizes that despite his groggy state, Dae-yob is awake enough to understand him. Dae-jun then proposes a deal. If he brings back the man who attacked them with gas, Dae-yob will accept him as a member and train him properly. Dae-jun grabs Dae-yob's hand and makes him perform the promise handshake. Back in the present, Dae-yob explains to the crew what happened. He asserts that no matter what, Dae-jun will never give up without putting up a fierce fight. Cut to the fight scene. Dae-jun, with determination, blocks the gangster's knife strike with his bare hands, leaving the gangster stunned. He can't believe Dae-jun is crazy enough to stop the blade with his bare flesh. Dae-jun taunts the gangster, asking if that's all he's got after threatening to finish him off. He pushes the gangster back hard, still holding the knife. The gangster, thinking Dae-jun is trying to set him up for a judo flip like Dae-yob did, braces for it. But Dae-jun surprises him. He aggressively pushes into the gangster, sending both of them tumbling down from the bridge, risking their lives in the fall. The gangster is shocked by the sheer madness of Dae-jun's move. As they fall, they hit the concrete wall of the bridge, bouncing off it several times before crashing to the ground. The knife slips from the gangster's grip during the impact. When they finally land, Dae-jun gathers himself and picks up a large brick. He intends to finish the fight, ready to crush the gangster's head with it. However, as he approaches the gangster, he realizes the man is already unconscious, having been knocked out from the fall and the collision with a nearby pole. Dae-jun feels a rush of triumph. He's won his first fight. He's defeated a gangster he never would have imagined beating. Feeling emboldened, Dae-jun starts thinking he might have a natural talent for fighting. But just as he lets his guard down, he notices the knife that fell from the gangster's hand is now lodged in his own abdomen. As the pain hits, Dae-jun curses his bad luck, collapsing to the ground. The scene shifts to the hospital, where Dae-jun regains consciousness. He's surrounded by the ᴄᴏᴘᴘыឫ crew, who have been waiting for him to wake up. Apparently, they found him unconscious after the fight and took him to the hospital. The gangster who attacked them with gas is nowhere to be found, possibly having fled. The doctor tells them that Dae-jun's knife wound is shallow and not life-threatening, but the real issue is the severe exhaustion caused by the fall. Dae-jun's body gave out from the high-impact crash, which caused him to lose consciousness. Cha Dae-yob tells Dae-jun to man up, reminding him that his injuries aren't serious and that he'll recover in no time. He reassures Dae-jun not to feel down about losing and failing to keep his promise. Despite not catching the gangster, Dae-yob decides to honor their agreement and gives Dae-jun the privileges he asked for, including the training he wanted. He tells Dae-jun that, despite everything, they owe him for saving their lives and for his relentless effort. They also praise him for his incredible courage, especially for jumping off a bridge with the gangster, calling it something only someone brought in by ᴄᴏᴘᴘыឫ could do. Later, ᴄᴏᴘᴘᴘыឫ himself visits Dae-jun in the hospital. He tells Dae-jun that he's learned to survive and that his training will begin soon. However, he makes it clear that if Dae-jun doesn't want to stay, he's free to leave. Dae-jun, determined, responds that he'll begin training as soon as he's discharged. The scene shifts to a more light-hearted moment. The ᴄᴏᴘᴘᴘыឫ crew fulfills one of Dae-jun's biggest wishes, to join them in eating pork belly. They're astonished that such a simple request, something they thought might be for a better food or a more significant reward, is his primary wish. But Dae-jun is practically glowing with excitement as he devours the pork belly. He eats so much that Cha Dae-yob remarks, "By the way you're eating, it's like we've starved you for days." Everyone falls silent at this comment. One of them finally admits they've only been feeding Dae-jun tuna since he arrived, prompting Dae-yob to get frustrated. They had all agreed to feed him as part of his stay, and now they feel guilty. They collectively apologize to Dae-jun for feeding him poorly, explaining that, as runaways themselves, they didn't have the luxury of treating someone new like family right away. Dae-jun, overwhelmed by emotion, breaks down in tears. He admits that he never wanted to live a life like this, that it was all forced upon him, and he can't understand why he has to suffer so much. Dae-yob, seeing Dae-jun's distress, asks him if he truly believes he's the only one with a hard life. Dae-yob looks at Dae-jun seriously, telling him that there isn't a single person in the household without their own problems. Everyone here is suffering in one way or another, some more than others, and some even worse. He mentions that there are people in their group who don't even have a family to be kicked out of. Things are that bad. But, he adds, they all understand that living on the streets is far from easy, so if Dae-jun doesn't want to face that life, he's welcome to stay here with them. After all, living with punks isn't so bad either. This makes Dae-jun smile. He can't remember the last time he genuinely smiled like this. His mood lifts, and for the first time in a while, he feels a sense of belonging. The others, seeing the moment, tease Dae-yob for being so melodramatic. Still, there's an underlying warmth in the air, a shared understanding that makes them feel like they're in this together. The next day, life goes back to normal, or at least, a new normal for Dae-jun. He moves out of the laundry room and into the main living area with the rest of the crew. But the cramped living situation quickly makes him realize that maybe this isn't all it's cracked up to be. While he's no longer isolated, he begins to notice the lack of space and privacy, which gets uncomfortable at times. Despite that, Dae-jun starts talking more with the others, though the conversations remain a bit awkward for now. The awkwardness stems partly from the fact that everyone is so close in age. The oldest in the group is ᴄᴏᴘYIL, who's just 19, and two others are also 17 like Dae-jun. They're not so different in age, which makes the interactions feel a bit uncertain as they navigate their new roles in this makeshift family. Chores are divided up among everyone, but there's a noticeable pattern. Dae-jun and ᴄᴏᴘYIL are the only two without jobs. While the others work to bring in money, Dae-jun is left to help with the bulk of the housework. ᴄᴏᴘYIL, however, is lazy, and instead of helping, he tells Dae-jun to take it easy, slacking off and focusing on his fight training. But Dae-yob isn't having any of it. He kicks Dae-jun out of the room, telling him that it's not okay to slack off. If Dae-jun wants to be a part of the group, he needs to step up. He suggests that Dae-jun find a part-time job to contribute to the household. Begrudgingly, Dae-jun listens to Dae-yob's advice. After some time, Dae-jun manages to land a part-time job at a local pizza shop. Unfortunately, things don't go smoothly. The customers are rough, often rude, and the boss is overly harsh. Dae-jun doesn't fit in well at all, struggling to keep up with the fast-paced demands of the job. Life outside the house, it turns out, is just as tough as it was inside. Dae-jun, so frustrated by the unkindness around him, is ready to quit his job, longing for the warmth of his runaway family. Just as he's contemplating this, the boss's daughter, Nyen, walks in, leaving Dae-jun in awe of her beauty. Despite his initial thoughts that girls aren't interested in him and that he should focus elsewhere, Nyen surprises him by calling him cute. Her words melt Dae-jun, and from that moment on, she will change his life forever. The scene shifts to ᴄᴏᴘYIL, who is seen beating up a thug in search of information. He demands to know the whereabouts of someone and warns the goon to deliver a message, bring the gangster who attacked them with gas to him, or else he will track them down and finish them off once and for all.